So we're about 2 weeks away from the start of the 2025-26 OHL regular season, and we've been doing a series looking at all 20 teams as they prepare for this new season. And we end with the Barrie Colts. Now, I didn't do this on purpose. I created a random order, and this is just where the Colts fell. So nothing against the Colts. It's just the way the order went. But let's talk about Barrie, as there's going to be a lot of turnover this season, especially when it comes to the offense. Now, how did we get to this point? Well, let's look at the last 3 seasons. Going back to 2022-23, this team finished with a record of 42-17-6-3, good for 93 points. The North Bay Battalion would win the Central Division that season, and those two teams would go head-to-head in the second round. And it was an injury to Evan Vierling, which kind of threw off the chemistry for the Barrie Colts, just not able to really recover after he was knocked out of the lineup, and the Battalion would win that series in 7 games. North Bay at that point, solid from the net out, and it was a great series. Just the injury, I think, is what really you could pinpoint as to the difference for the Barrie Colts to not able to overcome that series. But then going into 23-24, they finished with a record of 28-36-4, good for 60 points. And in this season, they were on the outside looking in for the playoffs come the OHL trade deadline, traded away veteran players like Connor Punnett. But after the trade deadline, things kind of started to shift. Bo Jelsma had more of a leadership role, and Sam Hillebrand really stood out for the Barrie Colts, along with Ben West. The goaltending was solid in the second half, and they were able to claw their way into that 8th and final playoff spot in the East, and would face an Oshawa Generals team that was on a 12-game winning streak going into the postseason. And nobody expected the Colts to do much come playoff time, but Barrie kind of shocked the Generals, winning game 1, but it would go back and forth, and eventually Oshawa would win that series in 6. But it really changed the view of this Barrie Colts group heading into the last season, 2024-25, as they were seen as maybe being one of the top teams in the East, and they wouldn't disappoint. Finished with a record of 42-22, 2-2, 88 points to win the Central Division, and they had a solid march all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, where again they would face the Oshawa Generals, and ended up in a sweep, as Oshawa just a little too much for the Barrie Colts in the playoffs last year. And if I think Barrie was in it for parts of that series, and really the turning point was Game 3 in Oshawa, where it went to triple overtime, if my memory serves me right. And the Generals, when they scored that goal, went up 3-0 in the series. You kind of figured Oshawa was ready to take this one, but still, what a great run it was for the Colts. There was some inconsistency at times. We saw some losing streaks, which were uncharacteristic with the team that was put together, but still the Colts able to take top spot in the Central. Their stats last year, they were averaging 3.67 goals per game last season, and the goals against 3.22. So the defensive game and goaltending is what was really the standout for the Barrie Colts last year. Their power play, 6th overall in the OHL at 24%, but their penalty kill, 83.1%, 3rd best in the Ontario Hockey League. And if Barrie's going to be a team that's going to challenge for top spot again in the Central Division, it's going to come down to specialty teams and the defense. That's what's going to carry this team. As we look at the top 5 goal scorers last year, Kayshawn Aitchison led the way, 26 goals, 33 assists for 59 points. And then Riley Patterson, second in scoring, 25 goals, 34 assists for 59 points. Aitchison gets the edge with the 26 goals. And then third in scoring, Dallin Wakely, 23 goals, 35 assists for 58 points. Owen Van Steensel, 23 goals, 30 assists for 53 points. And then Bo Jelsma, 20 goals, 32 assists for 52 points. So out of the top 5 scorers last year, the only one back this year is Kayshawn Aitchison, a defenseman, which kind of stands out here for the Barrie Colts. And just goes to show how the offense is going to look very different coming into this season. Goaltending-wise, Sam Hillebrand, great year, 21-9-2 is his record, 920 save percentage. And then Ben Hrebeck, one of the big surprises last year, 21-13-0-2, a 903 save percentage. So the goaltending tandem was solid for the Barrie Colts between Hillebrand and Hrebeck. Although now Hillebrand going off to the NCAA. So it's Hrebeck's net. Now it's trying to figure out, okay, who's going to be the backup. Looks like it'll be Arvin Jaswal. he's looked okay so far in the preseason, just one game to show for at this point at a time in recording. But like I said, goaltending, defense, that's going to be Barrie's bread and butter going into next season. For trades during the offseason, they did acquire two overagers. They acquired Alex Asadorian from the Niagara Ice Dogs and Calvin Crombie from the Brantford Bulldogs. Asadorian, when healthy, can be a key contributor with the offense, so they'll be looking to him to add that offensive spark. Well, Calvin Crombie, he's kind of that sandpaper kind of player. He brings that grit, and you need that come playoff time. So those are two of the three overagers going into the season that they've acquired. And then they traded away Grayson Tiller to the Niagara Ice Dogs and also Riley Patterson to Niagara. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic when you're trading within your division. You know you're going to play the Ice Dogs 6 times during the regular season and then potentially meeting them in the playoffs. So that's going to be, I think, a very interesting spot is how the Colts are going to do against teams like Niagara and North Bay, who they've traded with in recently. Because last year, they sent Shamar Moses to the battalion in the Dallin Wakely trade. And then Parker Vaughn at the trade deadline went to North Bay for Owen Van Steensel and Anthony Romani. So you've got those former Colt players who I'm sure are looking at the calendar and are going to be excited to play their former team to show them that maybe you shouldn't have traded them when they did. So that's the thing for me. I don't fully understand why you would trade within your division. I know they got the assets at the time, and that's supposed to help the squad. But when you're going to have to play them quite a bit, it could come back to haunt you a little bit here. But Riley Patterson, he requested the trade, or at least that's what we've been told, and he wanted to go and get more ice time, so he's hoping to get that with the Niagara Ice Dogs. He probably would have been one of the top scorers again this year for the Barrie Colts if he came back. I think he's going to have a great season with Niagara, but it's still a loss offensively for this Barrie Colts team. For signings during the offseason, they did sign their first-round selection, Alexander Sementsov. They also signed second-rounder Eamon Edgar, who's been outstanding from what I've seen so far. Third-round selection, Joseph Salandra. He's been getting top-line minutes in the preseason so far. Fourth-round goaltender, Hagen Bach. He appeared in the first preseason game and looked okay. And then also import Andre Gudin, who's a little on the shorter side, but he doesn't play like a smaller player. He plays like he's 6 foot, not afraid to go in the corners, throwing the body. So he's going to be a high-impact kind of forward once he gets used to the game here with the Barrie Colts. Now, the draft cupboard, they do have some picks here to work with. 2026, they have their own second. They have Kitchener's fourth, Saginaw's fifth, and then 2 in the 6th round. For 2027, they have their own second, Windsor's third, Brantford's fourth, and Sarnia's fifth. And then in 2028, they don't pick until the 4th round. They have a 6th, 8th, and 9th. So the draft cupboard, it's not the best, like when you compare it to a team like, say, Brantford or Kitchener, but the Barrie Colts draft cupboard, they could still do some additions here to try and bolster the offense, because that's going to be the big question mark. Who's going to score all the goals up front? Because you can't rely on Kayshawn Aitchison to be your leading scorer. You also need contributors up front. I think Cole Baudouin was going to have a great season once he comes back from the Utah Mammoth. Look for Brad Gardner to step up his game if he's one of the 3 overagers. And then you kind of expect both Carter Lowe and Bodie Stewart to take that next step, along with Jaden Newton. I think Jaden Newton could be a surprise player here coming into the 25-26 season. So all that said, I still have the Barrie Colts winning the Central Division. That's my prediction. I expect them to finish top 3 in the Eastern Conference standings, but it's not going to be easy. North Bay's better, Niagara's better, and I think those are the 2 teams that'll be knocking on the door, challenging the Barrie Colts for top spot in the Central Division. It's kind of like the race we saw last year in the East Division, where it was Brantford, Oshawa, Kingston, all within a couple of points of one another near the end of the regular season. I could almost see that happening here. Barrie, Niagara, and North Bay being those 3 teams at the top of the Central, challenging throughout to take that number 1 spot. So if Barrie doesn't win the division, I wouldn't be surprised. But at this point in time, with the way they have the players coming back, I do expect the Colts to win it, but it's not going to be easy, and I think it's going to be extremely close as to who will take home the Central Division. Now, looking at the channel vote, right now, 52% expect the Barrie Colts to finish in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference. 32% say Barrie will finish somewhere between 4th and 6th. And then 16% expect the Barrie Colts to finish at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standing. So time will tell. I think it's going to be an exciting season. It's just like I said, the goal scoring. Where is it going to come from? And I'm sure from Marty Williamson, who's now the full-time general manager, he's probably got some things he's looking at. He's also hoping that it'll come from within, that somebody will step up and become that leading scorer that the Barrie Colts need for this upcoming year. So that's how I see it from the booth. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the upcoming season for the Barrie Colts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.